took mine off because I'm wearing my Walmart specials and the reflection on them is crazy.
Oh yeah,
Go ahead.
unfortunately, I always have. It's better on the computer, but sometimes I have to see. So you get these are supposed to help not have the reflection. So hi everybody, while we talk about our glasses. So
Exactly. I'm going to pick up mine today. Anyway, hi everybody. It's Sandra Pelli, the Sandini Inner Peace Mentor, visionary of the Guide Academy. Always excited to be here. This is brought to you today. Of course, I don't have it handy anymore. It's by the Spiritual How To, which is up there. And it's available on all the Amazon.
I highly recommend it. Highly, highly recommend it. It's an excellent book.
Thank you, beautiful. I have Kitty with us today, and you guys all know that we have this incredible relationship between Kitty and I, both on camera and off camera. We have
Someday we'll meet in person.
We for sure. And you know what? What's so magical?
We'll blow every light in a 10-mile radius.
What's so really magical about the two of us is that we are just so devoted to you guys, and we're devoted to. It doesn't matter that this is my group. It doesn't matter that that's her group. It's all literally. It's everybody. We want everybody to gain from our wisdom or to gain from each other's wisdom, and that's the power that really has brought us together in such an interesting way. Yeah.
Yeah. It is. It's very true. It's not personal. We just want to help the people. We have different ways we do it. And it really is about getting us all to be a part of this new earth. That's the bigger understanding we both have. And we enjoy it. And it's amazing the synchronicities that happen for us too.
Oh, so right. Today we're talking with, and I'll just bring up her beautiful title, Kitty Foss, the storytelling astrologer. She's absolutely magical. I've known her for probably, I'm guessing maybe 4 or 5 years, but we really got involved together over the last 2 years, maybe 3 at the most. But really, sharing space together. We've been actively involved in each other's groups as well. And what I've been watching of you of late is like the vibe of the week. I've been watching the daily story of the energy reading over on the Instagram. The vibe of the week is over in the YouTube channel. She's been sharing that in different places. One, like I said, is Instagram. Another is the Lioness Collective on YouTube. You might hear her tote that name when she's speaking about her daily energy readings. Get this daily story of the energy. And we wanted to kind of dig into this a little bit more deeply. But first of all, in case you guys didn't know, Kitty has some, I think it's exciting. It's really exciting. She's really kind of stepped into, how do we want to word this? Coming into her own and really feeling into the energy of who she is. Just like I'm Sandra Pelli, the Sandini, Kitty is bringing to you the hero's journey astrology. And this is how to be a hero in your own life. And when I say that, the hair on my arm stands up. I get a big grin on my face, and I can feel the magic, because that's exactly what we were just talking about, of what we want to bring to people in their life. So can you just tell us a little bit about this first?
Sure. Well, first of all, at one time I could have called myself the reluctant astrologer. Astrology is something I have used personally for many, many, many years. And it was really Sandra and Amy Salisbury Martin who were like, would you just call yourself an astrologist? I'm like, I know a lot. And they're like, no, it's not just that you know. And so I was a teacher for many years. And one of the things and I was an elementary teacher. I always talk to the kids about how to be a hero in their own life, because we're on a stage and we're players. Of course, I'm talking to this Leo over here anyway, so she gets that. And we have energies in our charts that help us be more of a hero, to step into the roles we came to do, and understanding them is that hero's journey. And so how to be a hero in your own life is to understand what your story is. And so that's what I help you do, is I tell you the story of the energy, why you picked what you picked. And I always talk about something called the bus stop conversation. Before you came, there were things you set up as goals, things you wanted to learn, things to work out from other lives. That's your story. And in order to be a hero, you have to know if you're being an antagonist or protagonist, a supporting character, the main character. And we're all of those roles. and understanding the energy we use to get to them is important, and where those conversations take place. So that's where we came up with the hero's journey. And one of my words this year is guidance, and it's validation, affirmation. And I was telling my son, I think this is where I'm going. He goes, Mom, I've been doing the hero's journey all week. I'm like, okay. So that was my tap on the shoulder. That's the name. So
Loving the energy of that.
yeah.
So let's dive a little bit deeper into this because, as I said, I've been listening to you for a while, and I have little pieces that I'm starting to understand. But I think I'd like to go back to some of the basics. And by basics, I mean, I hear you using the word structure. And I know that you have a monthly post over in our Empowering the Healer Within community as well, where people get to dive in and hear what the month outlay looks like. Mm-hmm. But when we're dialing into what our story looks like for ourselves, first of all, highly recommend getting a reading done by Kitty, because you'll be blown out of the water by the information that comes through. And it is very proactive. It really helps you to understand your life, understand what's going on, and how to make proactive steps moving forward as well. So with that in mind, you speak a lot about the houses and the planets, and I know there's other aspects of that, but I really want to hone in on the houses and the planets. And I wish I could share a document with everybody so you understood what I meant. So what I'll do maybe is while I give Kitty the floor to talk a little bit about houses, the planets, and what the word structure means when that comes into play, I'll go over and see if I can at least put it into the comments, and you guys can take a look at it that way.
So let's just go through a little bit of a basic. All of us, it's a circuit. This energy story is kind of set up as a circuit to understand how our charts are put together. And the bottom of that circuit is the same for all of us. There are 12 houses, there are 12 signs, and they're set up in a circle, 360 degrees. And so that's why you always hear them talking about degrees, because it is a circle. And they start 1 through 12, but it moves counterclockwise. So where 1 is, 2 moves counterclockwise with it. And so the planets are the energy we talk about. So when I talk about Mercury, I'm talking about communication. When I talk about Pluto, I'm talking about our energy that transforms us. When I talk about Venus, I'm talking about beauty and relationship and values. So that's what we're talking about. The sign it's in is the how that expresses itself. And they're the 4 elements that go along with the medicine wheel. All of those things that you study about wheels is their earth, air, fire, and water. And water is emotion. Fire is your energy, how you expand. Earth is just what it sounds like, the physicalness, the structures around us. And air is the thoughts. And when we talk about the houses are where the conversation takes place with that planet and that energy and how that's expressed. So if I have things in the 9th house, that is the house of higher learning and truth. So on that bottom, that I'm not buffeting, on that bottom layer, it is all the same for all of us. The 9th house is Sagittarius, is truth. And so that's the same for everyone. When you're born, your planet is laid at an angle on it. And so it spins that middle wheel and lines it up geometry, right? So here's the bottom plate, here's mine on it. So whatever angle, where Aries is on the 1st house on the bottom, it might be on the 7th house of mine because of the way it is turned. And when you hear my daily and the vibe, that's the top layer about how those planets are always in action, always moving for all of us. So the bottom and the top are the same for all of us. This is steady. The top layer, the 3rd, is always moving. Yours is what's in the middle, and that's the relay of the circuit. That's how it's connected. That's how the wiring goes. And that's what we read in this hero's journey, how my energy, where it happens, how it lights up in conversations, how I get my energy and look in my plan. There are planets or points in charge of our soul. There are points or planets in charge of our communication, our physicalness, all of those things. So when we talk about the houses, it's important because that's where the conversation takes place. I might have the same planets in a sign that Sandra has, but mine might be on a whole different house. So it's communicating in a whole different part of my life. And that's why it's a journey to figure out where on my play, where my planets are, can I step up and use the energy and be the hero of my own story? So, and what happens as that top layer moves, it lights up different parts, those other wheels, and that changes. So that's why when you hear we say, our sun right now, sun is your engine, sun for everybody is in Capricorn right now. If you personally have a sun in Capricorn and it's in the, let's say that ninth house of higher learning, this really might be a time where you're looking for new structures to learn about because that's where your conversation is taking place. But you might have your Capricorn sun in something like the 12th house where it's secret. So this is a time of going through structures and finding and uncovering things. So that's why it's important to know where the conversation takes place. So
I'm a little confused because I've just sent them out the document. I don't know if anybody's looking at it or not, but I've got, this is what I'm showing on mine. It's 10th house, Capricorn, and career. So now you're talking about Capricorn being in the 12th house.
no, if your sun, I was a Capricorn sun, so you might have a Capricorn sun, but when you were born, it was lined up on that top layer in the 12th house. That's why you have, the time, so you know where they were positioned in the stars, and that creates your chart. Still Capricorn, and you're always talking about, when you talk about Capricorn, you're always talking about the 10th house in some way or another, even though, because it's, again, it's that whole idea that energy lights up on that bottom too and has a conversation. So that's why it's layered. It's not, oh, I have Pluto and Virgo and that means this. No, because that might mean this for you, but this for somebody else, depending where that conversation takes place. So
I'm loving the energy of that.
Yeah. And so, it's like any kind of circuit. I once asked my husband, tell me about circuits. And honestly, this is such a validation to talking about circuits. He says, well, circuits are fed from source. And my eyes flew open and he said, and wherever the source is in the circuit, it lights up different parts of it. And sometimes source and isolates a part because it wants the other part to function. So does your chart. I know. And I'm looking and I'm going, okay, and so that's the whole point. Wherever the source lights up your chart, whatever house, it might be over here for everybody else, but yours is also being lit over here. Through that middle, it's the middle, your chart is the relay, if you want to think of it that way, in the relay between where it is here and where it is for everybody on the bottom that's stationary. That was the word I wanted. It's stationary. Bottom does not move. It is the same for everybody. Your 10th house and my 10th house on that bottom part of the circuit are the same. My relay is different with Capricorn than your relay with Capricorn. And then, of course, up here for the world, that's what's getting lit up. That's the source that feeds it and lights different things up.
I don't know if you saw that. My 10th house and your 10th house live on the wire. It's just going everywhere. So, so you know what? It's kind of fascinating to me because it's like I really want to know so much more about this. And when I'm listening to your reels, which are they seem to be, how do I word this? Okay, so in the Empowering the Healer Within call and in the Vibe of the Week, we're getting a lot of information about a lot of days or a full month. But in the Vibe, in the daily story, energy story, it's just a glimpse at what today is. So break down what today is, and then some of the terminology that you usually use in there, like the word structure. I know when we're talking about structure, it's about something that is consistent. And when that thing is consistent, but it's in something else, it's going to react because of where it's at, correct?
Correct, yes. So often I talk about structure, especially right now, because we're in the time of Capricorn. Capricorn is earth, And Capricorn energy is the larger structure. It's government. It's the topographical map. It's the cities. It's that level of structure that's live. Large. When we talk about Virgo, also Earth, but it's the structure of the cells and the fractals. So Capricorn is the as above, and Virgo is so below.
Okay.
And so that's why, so we happen to have a Virgo moon right now. And the moon placement is about your emotional energy. It's about kind of your expertise, but the whole very human piece of of private energy. So collectively for the moon right now, today, Virgo is the moon is in Virgo. And of course, you can add in the phases, and eventually I'm going to where what the phase means for manifestation and several other things. But because we're talking about the smaller pieces, the smaller bits, the fractals, today's energy is a lot about the little things coming forward. And it's in an aspect right now. I'm going to double check this. So I'm grabbing my calendar. I talked about it this morning. And that means the glasses have to go on. It's in a flip-flop energy right now, which is when we talk about aspects. So when that middle layer is laid on, whenever you're talking about aspects, you're talking about geometry. You're talking about what angle it forms with something. So right now in the collective above that's moving and charging different parts of our chart and that bottom plate of the chart, so to speak, there is a geometric conversation happening. And the geometric conversation is right now is in a flip-flop. So that has to do with the degree of the angle, 60 degrees kind of thing,
Okay.
80, okay. And so when it's in this kind of opposition flip-flop, that's literally what the energy is doing. Like one kind of steps forward. It's like a seesaw, very much.
Okay.
And right now it's in this additional conversation for today with the planet that talks about chaos, that talks about awareness, not just chaos to be chaos sake, but an awareness. So the little pieces today are stepping forward to bring us awareness, but they're kind of going like this, like I might be aware because it bubbled up and then it feels kind of chaotic. So I shake it back down and then another little piece comes up. That's the energy today. Today I had to do that 4 times. I don't ever in the morning. Either the dog, somebody rang. So talk about the chaos that kind of bubbled up to change what little thing I was doing. The other aspect that's happening today is a square. Squares are 90 degrees and they're pushing against each other. They're a safety valve with this moon energy, these little pieces with, it's Venus, with Venus. And Venus is about beauty and what we value. So today, what we're valuing in the smaller pieces, we're trying to kind of settle what it is. One isn't overrunning the other. So that's the daily energy that you yourself can tap into and be aware of. So
I have a question around this because okay, so we're talking about here's this box and how I am viewing myself in the energy of that. Is that correct so far?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've got the structures, which is the government things, etc. And it's how I'm viewing myself within all those structures, correct? And then the underneath piece is the micro part of how we view ourselves on Earth, you said? Or what was that piece?
Just how it's reacting with us, how we are viewing our, yeah. And so today in particular, let's say we have the sun in Capricorn. It's not particularly having additional conversation today. So that doesn't mean there aren't things going on about the engine of our structure, but there is something going on with our littler pieces that is a little more chaotic because we're dealing now with this Capricorn structure, because that's our sun, that's everybody's sun. So that is happening. And because Capricorn happens to be the ruler of the 10th house on that bottom, so it's 3 layers that this energy travels through. And like I said, the middle layer is your layer. It's what relays. It means that there might be a little chaotic for me around my persona, what is going on for me, what is happening. And so I'm just aware of it. So it made perfect sense to me that this morning, because of my house of career and persona that I was having trouble getting this done because there's a chaos with managing the smaller pieces. Now, for some, and my Capricorn, by the way, energy on my middle relay chart is in the first house. So it's what people see. So, of course, something I'm doing publicly will see the chaos because that's where it is. For somebody else, it might be physically, like it's in a house that's physical. So it might feel chaotic, like, why do I have these new aches and pains today? That kind of thing. So it's that's why we read it. And when we learn about our own chart, we have a better chance of understanding what this upper layer is going to light up in our house. I happen to have a Venus. Now, Venus is a player today in this square that's in the house of hidden, which always means when Venus is an aspect, like, okay, what's going to come? Or it could come to the consciousness. So that's what the parts are. So if you can just think of the 3 layers, what I tell you daily is what's being lit up here, and what does that mean for you? And what that could look like for the collective, because the reading up here is about the collective. Today is about, in this flip-flop energy, tapping into joy, tapping into what, the Cherokee, what are you going to feed today when it gets chaotic and your values are questioned? What do you want to feed today? I want to feed joy. Tap into the joy. That's what we want to.
I love that because I can feel the energy of this, because Maria's Capricorn is in the 4th house, which is home. So what do you want to feed? Where do you want to bring the joy in? I love the energy of what you're saying here.
Right. And there may be some chaos and some flipping back and forth about your house, but knowing that it's like, okay, I'm going to feed when those players are pushing against each other, the little pieces in the 4th house with my, family. And because right now we're always influenced by what the sun's in. What does that mean for me? Where's my Venus going to maybe be talking to me? Mine's going to bring something to my consciousness, like, what I can do. So, so when you hear the daily reports, that's about what's happening on that 3rd level. And when you know what yours is, now I always say something that's a general understanding. A good example of that is we are going into a period of time. I'll be talking about this on the Empowering Healer for next month, where we're getting ready. Pluto, planet of transformation, is in a 247-year cycle. Okay, it just is. That's how long it takes, and it's going to take a step into Aquarius in March till June, go back out again and back into Capricorn. And so it's been transforming our structures. That's what 2020 was about in that upper level. And whenever it's in the last few degrees of Capricorn, the old guard, the government, the bigger structures get shaken. And that doesn't mean they're going to go gently into the good night. We've got a little Dylan Thomas going on here. There's always a really hard push to keep that authoritarian things going. But Aquarius is always going to be stepping up right behind it. And that's when the Age of Enlightenment started. That's when we switched periods in England. That's when, so there's always but you're going to be seeing some ugly fight a little bit out here. And being aware of that allows you to choose the joy, allows you to choose something else. Like, that's about this in the collective. I don't need to feed that energy. I'm going to feed this energy. And that's a big portion of our hero's journey, is what energy do I want to feed in this world?
Yeah. Now, you have been a part in a couple different ways of what is now being called the Reveal the Incredible You event. In the past, it was the Empowering Extravaganza, the Little You and Higher Self, but it's the Reveal the Incredible You. And interesting, throat chakra's coming up now. As part of that, you have this beautiful spot where you come in and you enlighten the group to what's going to unfold energetically. What are the potential? What's the potential of unfolding? And now, of course, we can't really go into that in great detail right here, right now. But the dates. When we start up, you've also been given the birth dates of the people who are going to be there. For those of you who are joining, your birth dates to me, etc. So, in that snapshot, how do we then use that kind of information because you'll be giving us kind of like, okay, this is what's happening over this. Now, how do we use that information to embrace our little you or inner child and give it the support it needs?
Oh, I love the little you because that really is astrologically. There's a section of your chart. There's a, and what it is to, it's my belief, and I know it's yours too, um, that when we know more and our awareness is more about ourselves, we're able with discernment to take the time and choose our actions or ask spirit to help us take a look at our actions. So knowing like kind of a little overall, especially what we tend to look at is your three big players in your chart, your sun, your moon, and what's called your ascendant or your rising sign. Um, and I have gone to using the analogy of a car. It's your car. It's the sun is the engine, how you run, what kind of gas it needs. Your rising sign is how people see you. And that's the law of attraction. That's the universe law, you know. So if I know I'm stepping into a great example is if you are a Scorpio rising, that's a difficult rising sign. God bless you. Because Scorpio is about transformation and change and going into the darkness. It's emotional. And so that means there's a fear often that you get back from people because they know that something is really changing. Um, I'm getting a call on my phone, so
I
I'm
heard that.
declining. Yeah. Um, and
That's
so, yes,
us.
and it was Amy, by the way. So, um, and so Amy from Intuition on the Soul. And so, anyway, so how people see you is how they react to you. And it's also, you know, you might think you look like a Bronco, but you to everybody else are a sleek Mustang. And it's how they react, but it's also your law of attraction. So knowing that, and every year, by the way, that rising sign has a new lesson to it, has a different energy along with your natal rising sign. That's what a solar return tells you. Allows you to understand sometimes perhaps why people react certain ways. And your moon is your private energy. It's kind of your expertise. So knowing that when you are having to figure things out, what does my private energy, where does it have its conversation? I might be able, when I need a break, to go and use that, you know, to go and figure out a way that really supports the way I take care of myself, along with my son, you know. So those are the kinds of things that knowing that information can really help you. It's a paradigm, an organizational tool. It's a tool. That's what it's really meant to be. It's always been meant to be a tool, not a predictive that there's a disposition that things are going to happen. It's an energy I can use as I travel through life and then attract what it is I want to accomplish.
Right.
No, yeah, I don't know who the Facebook user is, not Scorpio Sun, Scorpio Rising. Yeah, because when you talk about a rising sign, that's how people see you. It's not that it's a very powerful rising sign, but to know that people perceive perhaps some fear when you come into a room as a rising sign is a good thing to know, you know, that, and there's a good way to use it. Um, so that's the kind of thing that we talk about. It's to you more tools for your toolbox. That's what it's for.
So I just want to see if I can not necessarily simplify this, but I'm looking at what I've got written on that document, and there's the houses, then there's the astrological signs, and then
Mm-hmm.
there's the planets with the sun and the moon as well, right?
Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
now every um, every astrological sign has its own house and planet or sun or moon, but also can move and be in other
Right. On the
positions.
bottom, it doesn't move. In the first house is Mars. In the second house is
Right.
Venus. In the third house is Mercury. That doesn't move.
Okay.
Um, there, the planets rule the sign, and that's important to know because when I talk about Mercury in a water sign, it's always in an air sign because it rules that sign of Gemini, which is an air sign. So you've got water and air. So you've got the elements working together. In your layer, it doesn't it's where it ended up, where it was in that sky when you were born. And of course, it's always changing in the sky, you know. But the planet has a job. It's the what we're talking about. It's the when I want to talk about communication, I'm going to look at Mercury. I'm going to look at the relationship Mercury has with something. Um, when I want to talk about love and relationship, I'm going to look at Venus. You know, when I want to talk about change, or if I want to look at expansion, I'm going to look at Jupiter. That's the kind of job of it. The element, there's always an element it controls because it has an element assigned to it, but you may have an additional element assigned to it, whether it's a water, air, so whether it's Scorpio, whatever. That's how it functions. And then again, the house is where that conversation takes place. So,
Well, I know that I'm really looking forward to stepping into this a lot more deeply with you. And you do offer a class,
yes,
right? So what is that about?
So the class is changing. It's now going to be, when you start, it's a rather 3-month, 4-month. You guys are kind of in my first intensive class just to get a really good working understanding. And then we have a group that meets monthly, and there's some new understanding of a higher piece. Example of that was just recently, the order in which we have inner planets and outer planets, the order in which your inner planets appear also is kind of like a Myers-Briggs personality because it has to do with their interaction. So that's a higher version. I'm not going to read that in somebody's chart right away. So you take the intensive class, and then it's a reduced kind of general class that goes on from there. And I'm going to be adding to that a time where you just bring your charts. We talk about what's going on, and you can look at where it is in your own chart. Just a general monthly check-in. So you learn to read your own chart. I'm not here to train astrologers, but I want you to use your tool as your tool, you know, and start to interpret for yourself. So I think it's an important, and then you can help other people too. You know, if you want to go on and become an astrologer, that's fine, but understanding how that works by using your own chart. And I find I use it a lot because I've been teaching the class now even more. I'll go, oh, here's a Venus kind of thing, isn't it? You know, or my personal favorite planet is black. It's really an asteroid, Black Lilith. That's your free will. And so learning how your free will works allows it to be a tool and not necessarily something that's in your way. So.
Yeah. Well, I know that we both have been mentioning the Empowering the Healer Within community, and at the first of the month you put your blurb in there, and it's always fascinating to me. And when I have chosen to step into it, and everything's a choice whether we step into this or not. When I've chosen to step into really paying attention to those dates that you mentioned in those calls, and that happens in the vibe of the week as well as the daily vibe. Pay attention to those numbers, you guys, the day numbers. I can actually, and then paying attention to the moon cycles as well. When we're talking about, seeding the intentions, releasing, letting go of whatever the moon cycle is as well for that. I find that the class that comes through seems to be on a whole different level at that point because of the way that we're tapping in with the astrological and the moon phases. It's fascinating.
I mean, this is a very old, ancient art. Mm-hmm. This is not a willy-nilly. And, as you look at my galactic shaman friend over there, as you look at where this way, I guess, on this.
She keeps speaking over there, and I'm wondering who's sitting beside her.
As you look at that, you realize that this was also handed down to us for mankind to have some understanding. And as it evolves, we evolve also. And so, this new Earth has some really new energies. We are in a different part of the galaxy. We've got new waves we're able to measure that are coming from areas we've never been able to have waves before. We're finding new asteroids and planets that have that have relationships with our own planets. And so you're like, well, what's that doing then? So it's fascinating to really learn.
So I have a deeper question here, and I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer this or not. I've been watching a number of different shows, and one of them that I keep quoting is the ancient apocalypse right now. And it is a known fact that the planet Earth is not a completely round orb, that it has kind of a little warble to it. And because of that little warble that it has to it, because it's not fully round, the planets and the star systems have actually been changing by whatever degree over however many thousands of years. So like in 12,000 years ago, the sun and that lined up just ever so slightly different from now. And that's actually been proven by you go to Stonehenge and different places. So how is that affecting us? And now that's kind of like a broad question, because in our lifetime, we may not actually see a big difference in the degrees of the planets and the stars and that. But how might that help us in looking forward or looking backwards?
Well, there's, we're able to measure it better. So that's one thing. So those old things that they developed were beyond human, but somehow they still developed them. So somebody was helping us. And what's nice about modern astrology is they're actually able to measure it, so they can adjust the degrees. They can adjust it. There's an area we now know of. This is astronomy, folks. This is not astrology, called the Great Attractor. And we know that the planets, not only are we shifting, but all of the planets are shifting towards this area. So what are we being attracted to? And we're able to go out farther with this information. So what it's changing is, that's why it's a new Earth. It is a new Earth. It's all the way through from the 3D up, things are becoming more aware. We're able to actually see it and be it. And it's like what's that called? The study of the monkeys, who one monkey began to wash, and then all the way through the world, all of a sudden monkeys were starting to wash their food. This is that energy, that orbit, that shift in the consciousness of Earth and its evolution. That's why it's so important now to not get into the watch your words like, oh, it's a crazy world. No, it's not a crazy world. It's an exciting world. It's to really magnify. We're going to get there one way or the other, but I'd like to get there faster, and I'd like it to be a little more gentle. And so my part is to magnify my own putting that out there. So yeah, there's a lot of things changing. We're finding more and more things. We have planets now that we know actually shift places. Uranus, Neptune, every X amount in a cycle, they physically change their orbit with the sun.
Wow.
And so we're able to really take a look at what does that mean.
I want to take a leap backwards for just a second here, because you said something that was very, very powerful. And I know that when I'm working with people, go ahead.
There's just one more thing I want to say. I think it's funny how you said 12,000 years, because there is an energetic geological cycle that happens every 12,000 years, and we're starting it. It started in 2020 at the Great Alignment. We got a little bit of it and properly into it by the end of 2023, 2024, 2025. So, and it's every 12,000 years. So, yeah.
There's something big about the energy around 12,000 years for sure. You use the words, and as you said, it's not astrological, it's astronomical. That's not a word, astronomy, where it's the planets and that. And that we're being pulled towards something, we're being attracted to something. That is so important in our day-to-day life as well. Because exactly what Kitty just said too about the words that we're using, right? We're attracting things with those words. I know this morning I said something in a call, and I said I am, and whatever I said behind it, I'm like, okay, I need to change that right now. And I did. I literally changed it in stream, and that's what we're being asked to do, is be conscious of that. The other thing is too is when we're talking about these different astrological signs and that, and just like when Maria said about her fourth house, and that's home, and we're talking about the Capricorn and these things, that's attracting joy. Well, be conscious of attracting the joy then. Don't just go, oh, I'm going to sit here and I hope joy comes to me. No, attract joy. Step into the energy of that attraction. Be that attraction. And that's what I'm constantly talking about as well, is that um, recognize where you want to go and how you want to be in that motion of moving forward. Like, would you want to struggle? Do you want the chaos, or do you want to find the easiest pathways that are going to be beneficial to you? Moving forward and listening to Kitty on these different vibes in the different places that she's at is so beneficial for that type of movement. What else would you like to say to that?
Well, I just think it's good to, for me, especially helps me. And I had a wonderful, if you don't mind me sharing a little story, I have a cousin who's a minister. We grew up in the same family, obviously. And he is a minister. He was the minister of the Universalist Church, which is probably the most accepting of the churches, back in 1987 in the Castro district in San Francisco, which is the apex of the hidden AIDS epidemic before it became public. And he was their spiritual leader, which was, he said, what did I know at 27 years old? I mean, a good week was only 4 people dying. I mean, it was a nightmare epidemic. And he reached out to me recently and said, this sermon this week is about the Magi. Astronomers and astrology were the same thing, watchers of the stars. And he said, I want you to know, I listen to you every day. And he said, it was a lovely comment he made. He said, I listen to you every day because the check-in of the information daily about what's going on in the stars. And he said, and I see how you live your life, which was a lovely compliment. And it is about the joy. It is that Cherokee. What wolf do you choose to feed? What paradigm and vision? We're coming into this Aquarian. We are in the age of Aquarius, which is the age of the we and the collective. What paradigm do you want to hold? And even if someone doesn't have the same paradigm, that's what Namaste is. The soul light in me, you hold a different space and time than I do. And it's not my job to fix it, do anything about it. And I want to magnify the joy of that. And that's really important to me. So I do the daily check-ins so that people can have like a aha for a minute. Let me think about my day. Here's the energy that's there. How is that going to affect me? And if we could get everybody to stop sometimes and just take a moment, just a moment, it can change the trajectory of their day. So that's what I think about that.
Even in listening to ones that have already gone by, I find that they're just as powerful, because it helps me to reflect back and see what my day was like that day too, and how I was affected and how to move forward in a better manner as well.
Yeah, I think sometimes listening to the day before you hear the day is like, aha, yes, to reflect back. And it, again, you're looking for the joy. I want to know what the energy is so I can interact with it in my best, I like this, Teresa wrote, my most mindful choice. That's what it's about. Mindfully, what choices can I make today? What's available to me extra in this energy that I can make a conscious choice of? It doesn't feel so out there. It's just kind of an organizational tool. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Let me just see. Is there anything else that wants to come in around this? Oh, you know what I'd like to hear is, I know that you and I have both alluded to the little U aspect of it, but maybe tell people, how does that chart look? I know that north, like usually when we're talking about clocks and north, for when we're looking at something, it's north at the top, right? So what is it like, and where does the little U in those fit in on that?
Well, so the astrological wheel, 360, moves counterclockwise. When you hear about the dreaded retrogrades, all that really means is the planet has slowed down, not necessarily gone clockwise, but no longer is traveling counterclockwise. So it changes the energy to become more internal than external, which is, it highlights that. So if you start, so north is at the bottom, south is at the top, west, east. So it's completely flipped. The little U quadrant, if you divided it into four, 1, 2, and 3 is the inner child. It's the little U. The houses that the conversations are taking place are, number 1 is your storefront, how people see you, how you step into the world. When you have planets in that, like I have Jupiter and Saturn, people see when I expand, people see somewhat of my structure or think they're looking in my storefront and seeing it. Second house is a house of value, what you value, what, and that goes from 3D values like money, much more concrete, all the way up into the moral values. And the third one is communication. So those are the things that childhood, also inner child, is about: what I value, how I communicate it, and what people see me, see me. How many children just want to be seen? That is the house of the inner you. 4, 5, and 6. And by the way, anything that's below that horizon on that lower half is all about the inner working. Fourth house is family. It's also about nurturing. The fifth house is the house of you, the creativeness, the fun house, meaning the fun. You're supposed to be having fun, being creative, and all of those things. It's the house of you. And the sixth house is the house of systems, the house of the body, how the little pieces all work together to build a bigger picture. That's the revolutionary part of that is the teenage, the angst, and it makes sense. What my family teaches me, who I am, and how do I work myself into the systems. That's that revolutionary, that's the second quadrant below. And it would be the southwest quadrant. The third quadrant now is above. So this is stuff that comes to me, is called the adult quadrant. It's really about our life lessons. It's the quadrant of relationships, the quadrant of transformation, and the quadrant of learning, higher learning. So it's all about, as I'm an adult, what I learn, my journey, how I'm looking at the world. And then the 10th, 11th, and 12th, the 10th house is the house of careers, but it's also the house of your persona. Your work might not be your job, your job. Your work here is that 10th house, that structure that you participate in. Some of us, our career and our work is the same thing, but that's not true for everybody. Some people have a job and then they are here to do other work. And the 11th house is your house of friends and blessings, the blessings that come. And the 12th house is what is hidden, the house of secrets that you become aware of. And that's in the quadrant of universal old age. It's in the wisdom that we develop. So that's the division of the astrological wheel.
Love it.
And if you have a chart read, you might find out that an empty quadrant has a meaning versus a packed house of something or energy, because you had a bus stop conversation about things you wanted to work out, and these are ways and tools you're given. Now, I might have 5 different kinds of screwdrivers in this toolkit of my astrological chart, and yet I'm always using a wrench. So, that's part of what the learning is. So if, that's that definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I need to get a different tool. So that's part of what I hope the daily does, the weekly does, because there are astrological happenings that cause solar flares, that go into the geology and the astronomy, that call the Schumann resonance has to do with the alignment of planets and that great attractor, and why does this happen, and that movement of the sun. We have new ranges in waves that we've never had before, because things are physically shifting. It's not magically voodoo, or is it? But so
Wow.
it's really interesting. So
Yeah. This has been just packed full of information, and I love it because it's basic information. I mean, you gave us a really nice kind of dusting on all the different aspects of that. Do you feel like there's anything else that you would like to add to that?
what I'd like to add is, again, it's that idea that these are tools. They're tools that either you resonate with or you don't. It doesn't have to be complicated. You can have a reading and take away 2 pieces of information and change your life with it. It's not a matter of I have to understand all of it, or you might find that it's a calling for you. I started to do the daily energy readings because I wanted people just to pause for a minute and, take a look at the stars, take a look at that's kind of my contribution to this new earth. Hey, here's some information for you. How are you going to use it in your day? How are you going to use it in your day? Um, and it's the same thing as an affirmation and a mantra. Sandra and her amazing mantras, I'm using them all the time. It's the same kind of thing, only it's a little bit more about a measurement, a paradigm shift for you. And whatever we can use to shift the paradigm to make this new earth be in a more amazing place, let's do it. I know you had Margot with human design on. That's a fascinating, you know.
I'm not sure who this is, but I'm really appreciate their comment about the basic information comprehensive at the same time, and it simplified things for me. Yeah, you know what? And it's the repetitiveness. And this isn't the first time Kitty and I've gotten together and talked about this, both in my place and over in her spots. And it won't be the last time, because this is the type of thing that when you are ready to hear it,
it's Barb.
It's Barb. Yay, Barb. Well, and she's right there with me when I talk about the ancient apocalypse, because it's so fascinating. So anyway, when you're ready for these tools, they will start to resonate with you. Right? I just want to say something here real quick. It's just like for me, recognizing first of all that I'm a 0808 baby. That's the Lion's portal. That's huge. And you know what? I don't just go, oh, it's Lion's portal, and I'll go have birthday cake and that or whatever. No, I actually take advantage of it. I will do something. I will create a crystal grid, or I will do readings. But every time that this comes on, I do something around a bigger meditation event, because I want to help as many people with grabbing onto the energy of that portal. Well, so go ahead.
And so here's her 0808. 8 is the house of transformation, and she's a Leo. And Leo is the house of self-transformation. What does the Sandini do? It started her whole journey. I'm also a portal baby. I'm 1111. So, and 11 is about one remains, one falls away. Again, transformation, it's in the time of Scorpio. But ones are about partnerships. And that's, using something that sometimes we use tools that take us to different tools. And that's a big part of it, for whatever tool resonates with people. It's more that the hero's journey is the important part. It's the journey.
Yeah. I want to add to this too, that there will be things that you hear in anything. And that doesn't matter if that's from me or from Kitty or from the wide range of people that you hear out there, that does not resonate with you. For instance, I heard that, I don't know if it was this year or something, but it's like 8 is not your number. Well, how can you tell somebody that's 0808, born at 818, that 8 is not their number? So what resonates for you? Grab a hold of it. Ride that wave. Ride the wave.
Well, and what resonates today may not be the tool of tomorrow. It's that how we, I remember taking a medium class, and I don't know if I told you I saw my first ghost, which I've been very reluctant. I hear, see, whatever. And it was a dog. But whatever you take away from something. But in my first medium class, someone was telling me that mediumship was higher than psychicness, was higher than, and I'm like, no, it didn't resonate. It doesn't mean for somebody else that that's not a paradigm they use. And there's a reason why that resonates for that woman. It's at first I'm like, no, and I got really mad, and I'm like, wait a minute, stay in my own lane here. What she does her, you do you. I have a friend who wrote a book called that. You do you. Love that. Just do you. Because we have different gifts and different things that we're unlocking, and that's what this journey is together. So,
yeah. Now, I don't really have a whole lot more to add to this. Intuition of the Soul. That's who she is, both Facebook and YouTube. Is that something handle you use on Instagram as well?
Yes.
Okay.
I also use Optimize. I post to all of them. Optimize is the course that I take, and then I'm part of this Lioness Collective, which is a YouTube group of women. There's tarot readers, there's mediums, there's two of us that are astrologers. My friend Tamara does yoga. As a matter of fact, I'm very excited about this new program I'm doing with Tamara. It's called Sun Magic, and we all celebrate the moon. You hear all about the moon, but nobody's stops to say, wow, this is the engine of this next period of time. Not that I know. So we're going to be celebrating every month. She's writing a special yoga routine that you can physically use to welcome the sun. And I'm going to give the information about the magic of the sun of that month. And that's kind of an overarching energy that happens every single day till it shifts into the next sign. So we're doing sun magic. It's something different to do. And I love Qigong and I like yoga. So I loved having something that was about the body because everything is about the body. We took a human body to kind of welcome that. And I've used this last month several of the movements when things have felt too much structure. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This is about the root. This is about, go back to my body. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Love the energy of that. So, in a nutshell, this has been absolutely incredible. Couple things.
We have such a good time when we talk.
We
It
always
doesn't matter. People don't know this, but we talk every week, and and we've done books together, and it's just I'm so blessed. I really
I am too. In fact, that book I quote out to many people, and that's the Jill Bolte Taylor's Stroke of Insight. That it was a stroke of insight to read it, and it brought us even closer, actually.
Yeah, it really did. And I use it all the time. Wait a minute, let me just feel this and not assign it something. That was we've talked about it, 90 seconds. That's all you have to feel for. That's amazing. And it has changed the trajectory of what gets resentful, what goes, Now I'm working on how can I go back in time for where I built this just to go back and feel it and unpair these thoughts.
Exactly. So you guys saw that you can find Kitty in all different kinds of places. She is going to be an integral part and will be probably for the foreseeable future in all the Reveal the Incredible You events. We have one coming up. If you want to know more about that, sandrapelli.com/events is where you find that out, as well as going and looking on my business page on Kitty's stuff, the Intuition of the Soul. You can find her there. You can find her on Instagram. You can find her on YouTube in multiple places. If you type in Optimize, if you type in Vibes of the Week on YouTube, they're the first things that come up. I did it today to check you out. So
I think I call them Astro Vibes. And if you're a member of Intuition of the Soul, free Facebook group that has different people come, I post them there every day. So
exactly. If you feel that you have something that you would like to share with our audiences, my audience, then I would love to hear from you because we can have a conversation like this here too and bring you on board with sharing your gifts with the rest of our communities as well. Love you guys.
All
love
have
you.
them.
Yes,
we
do.
all have them. Please become part of the. I used to say that to my students. Are you part of the solution or the problem? Be part of the solution. You all have it. So
beautiful. Thank you so much.